Howdy, folks. Welcome to the show. It's the Injured Worker Show, where we give you the 5-0 or the skinny on what's happening to injured workers in America and the solution to solve our problem. That's right. In today's show, the topic's going to be injured workers, what they need to know, who their enemy is. That's what you need to know. And what we got going on here is an insurance industry that is taking control of the narrative for the injured workers, and it's even getting other injured workers convinced that they need to go away from federal oversight. And I'm sorry, the solution for America's injured workers is the minimum federal standards that we've needed on the table since 1972. So minimum federal standards for injured workers is not too much to ask for. A basic human right where an arm in one state is worth more than $35,000 when an arm in another state is worth $750,000. That's something, an inequality we need to address in America, not keep saying it's too big or it's something we can't handle. We can handle basic human rights in America, and we need to step up to the plate and do so. But tonight's topic is I'm going to share with folks, first of all, the people who have told us what needs to be done, and then who it is that's against us. So here we go. I'm going to do a little transfer here, if I can transfer over. Let's see if it works. Yeah, we'll make that small for a moment, and we'll try and bring up this guy here. And first off, we'll talk about these people here, who are the Congressional Research Service. I will attach the link to this in the video here. But basically, it's a workers' compensation overview and issues, and this is what is a smart think tank of smart people from the left and the right. Members from both sides got together and hashed it out and had basically a smart think tank of smart folks figure out what it is that we need for the workers of America. And they have come up with and decided that we need some minimum federal standards. And it's nothing new. I mean, injured workers advocates have cried for this, like I said, since 1972. So then, it doesn't, I'm gonna leave it at that. And we'll move on to the next issue here, because basically it's boiled down to states' rights versus the injured workers' federal human rights here. And this is what it's boiling down to. And I personally would like to side with workers and their human rights, basic human rights, over the businessman's states' rights to a competition and a race for lower workers' comp rates that harms labor and pits us against one another in a race to the bottom for labor. So anyways, it isn't really about big government, little government, and when you get confused against each side's ideologies, or the Med-for-All is going to be a solution one side gives us as an alternative solution to the federal oversight, when what we need is a minimum federal oversight for injured workers, not alternative solutions from either side. Now, I know some of my friends would like to just abolish it and be rid of it and be done away with exclusive remedy clause, which basically makes workers' comp what it is. It's a trade-off that is not a good trade-off, but on the other hand, it wasn't meant to be good. Both people are basically, it was a trade-off. It wasn't, neither side was happy with the deal, but on the other hand, it's what we've got to work with, and until it's done away with or eroded away altogether, we need some minimum federal standards so that we, the workers, have some right over the businessman's states' rights at this point in time. So when I say know your enemy, it really doesn't matter if you're on the left or on the right. These are the people, the smart thought think tank from both the left and the right, who told us our workers need some minimum federal standards. And then we've got these other people, if I can bring them up here. These are the people, basically, these private insurance association advocacy bloc. These are the people that are fighting against us. And they come out and they tell you Congress seeks to expand federal oversight to state workers' compensation programs. And I will put a link up to this article as well. It's a short one. And they basically say that they strongly oppose the proposals that would expand federal oversight to potentially include state workers' compensation programs. Recently, the House of Education and Labor Committee, chaired by Bobby Scott of Virginia, passed the labor portions of the administration's pending budget reconciliation package. It includes an allocation of $121 billion to dramatically expand federal authority over the Department of Labor's Office of Work Compensations Program. Anyways, I will attach the article and let people read it for themselves. Basically, the rationale behind it is, they say, is to increase federal oversight of state-run workers' compensation programs because it's purported a decline in the sufficiency of benefits given to injured workers, which most injured workers know. Yes, we are losing our benefits. The studies come out told us we've lost 15% nationally of our work comp benefits because state by state they've been eroded away, i.e. the urgent need for some minimum federal standards for workers in America. Because if you're citing against injured workers and injured workers advocates calling for minimum federal oversight, it's not a states' right versus, it's not just that, you're siding with the business community over the workers. And that is what it comes down to. Either you're for workers or you're for these business communities or this insurance company right here, and this is who these people are all for, is for for the insurance company. So if you go in here, it says about who they are. They're a National Association of Professional Insurance Agents that represents independent insurance agencies and their employee agents in all 50 states. And they are against federal oversight for injured workers and our workers' minimum federal human rights. If you're fighting injured workers in America today, and I'm going to transfer back over here, if I can, I'm going to try to bring this back up and see if I can bring this back up. So there we go. These are the folks, some of us have told us what needs to be done. A smart think tank of smart folks from both sides have told us basically what injured workers and injured workers advocates for decades have told us needs to be done. And then we got the other people who are standing in our way. Now, aside from just totally abolishing workers' comp or doing away with the exclusive remedy, which would do away with workers' comp, basically, other than that, you're not going to fix anything, and you're not going to abolish it. Just plain and simple. And until you're able to do that, we need some other solutions. We need to work with the system that's there, that's broken. We can fix it with some minimum federal standards instead of, crying that it's too big, or it's big government versus little government, or it's this, that, don't. No. We need some basic minimum federal standards on the table for humans. And we've needed it since 1972, and the fact that we've used politics or big government, small government, or this or that as an excuse for not stepping up and representing the humans here in America today, that is inexcusable from either the left or the right at this point, especially when the workers have lost 15% of their grand bargain benefits nationally over the last 5 years, which is a 10-year trend. The same 10 years, injured workers like me have been crying out for help from people like Senator Sanders, who did speak up 5 years ago and called for minimum federal oversight, yet went silent. And so did Biden, and so did Trump. As all of them ran for president, they couldn't say a word about these minimum federal human rights that workers need in America that nobody is standing up and fighting for today. So for my friends that say, oh, you don't need federal oversight, government's bad, I'm sorry. It's what we have to work with. And until you've done away with it, which you will not and probably never will, we have to work with what is here. I'm only being a realist. And at that point, we have to work with what we've got. And what we've got needs some minimum federal standards so there's not 50 different little insurance fiefdoms making the laws. We've got one set of laws that all those different 50 states, insurance fiefdoms, would have to adhere to. Instead of making up and picking and choosing whether their business community in their state is going to allow you to honor some human rights or not have some basic human rights. You would adhere to some human rights because that would be the federal law, and you would do what you were told, or we would hold you to account. No longer is it an excuse or viable for people to say, poo-poo on us injured workers fighting for the minimum federal oversight. We are the only ones standing up for the workers at this point, because if you're not siding with workers who are fighting for the minimum federal standards and screaming that big government's too much, blah, 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 that's no longer an excuse. You're standing in the way and you're siding with who? Those insurers. When you side with insurers and the business men over the workers in this nation, there's something wrong with that. And when Kashmir Sawant, who also claims to be a socialist, and socialist Bernie socialist Sanders can't speak up, then there's something wrong with that. Especially when 5 years ago they could all tell us about it, but yet 5 years since then, everybody has remained arrogantly silent. I call foul, and I would like to basically call on Senator Sanders to speak up and come out publicly and start speaking out for the minimum federal oversight, so the people down the line and the people at the local level will stop trying to gel other people who are speaking out and asking for the minimum federal standards that he told us we need. Thank you, and have a good day, and I hope you do learn something. Learn who your enemy is, because it's not the other injured workers. Yes, we have issues with doctors getting away with stuff. That's why we need some basic minimum federal standards, so that the state med boards will not condone and get away with not policing the doctors, telling the police the doctors lying to deny us to start with, i.e. some minimum federal standards, because the states themselves will not put those conditions on those doctors so that they will be policed. So they're not used as tools and shields to wage this war upon us. So some basic minimum federal standards is not too much to ask for. It's not big government versus small government, da-da-da-da-da. It's a basic human rights versus right and versus what is wrong. And asking for some minimum federal standards is what we need to unite around as injured workers. And anybody else trying to distract from that or head in another direction, with Medicare for all on the left, or my people on the right with court cases and RICO cases that have failed us for the last 50 years. What needs to be done is to unite around the minimum federal standards. We were told by smart folks at the think tank in 2020 that this is what needs to be done. They set their agendas aside and was only focused on what was in the best interest of workers, and that's what they come back to us with. So all these other armchair politicians and other injured workers trying to share your ideologies from either the left or the right, neither one of those solutions are working, and the one solution we need to put on the table is this minimum federal oversight. And humans, all the workers, not just injured workers, need their human minimum federal oversights honored, so an arm in one state isn't $75,000 and $750 in another state. And if you can't see that as a basic human right, then you're not a workers' advocate or a human rights advocate. You're putting the businessman before human rights. You're putting the government before human rights. You're putting the states' rights, the Alex Bisman states' rights before our workers' federal human rights. Those should come first and foremost. And we can, whether or not you're ever going to get rid of the bargain and exclusive remedy is never going to happen. So we have to work with what we have and police the states that are allowing these med boards to use their doctors as tools to rob us of the fruits of our labor. Wake up and take time and read these articles that I'm sharing with you. I've also put them into audio format where I'm not even in the videos. It's just the audio text of these reports from our own United States government telling us the truth here, and other organizations of doctors and different things that are telling us the truth. Yet when I share that with people, they still don't want to hear it. They want to block it up, because each side runs to their corner. The one's big government and it's all bad and we got to abolish it. And the other one runs to the med for all. We just had universal health care. We just had med for all. Well, you haven't got either one of those in the last 5, 10, or 50 years. And until you got those, then come tell us you don't want our issue on the table. Because it's not correct for young Jason Cole for Congress and Bernie crap flying Senator Sanders' flag to tell me med for all and whole Washington single-payer health care are his priorities, when his priorities, if he's going to take my state representative Rick Larson's place, who also doesn't hear us, should be our human rights, not the states' rights with whole Washington. I'm sorry, if you're running for United States government, and you're going to sit here and use your states' right, whole Washington agenda to say that's an excuse for not speaking up for the minimum federal human rights Senator Sanders just told us we needed before he went silent in 2015, then there's something wrong with that. We don't need the right or the left or either side ideology ideology, however you want to look at it, distorting us from the truth of the facts that this is a top versus B bottom war here, and if it's to be fixed, it needs some minimum federal standards over these 50 fiefdoms. And I would rather have one set of rules over the 50 fiefdoms instead of each fiefdom having 50 different sets of rules. You say the game is rigged? I'm showing you how it's rigged, how to unrig it as far as we can, because you're not going to just topple it and bring it down. You can try, but you ain't going to get far with that. Have a good day. We'll go out with a tune, eh? You said, put it in a song. That's what the therapist said. Tell everybody what's going on. We don't want to medicate you, Darren, because you've got something in your head we want you to share with the world. Well, here I am unmedicated. Take it what it is, however you want. But I'm going to share truth, and I'm going to fight for justice and the minimum federal standards and basic federal human rights America's injured workers have needed since 1952. Have a good day. Thank you, Sergeant Central. 19 Sergeant.